Hello, friends and followers. I am still hacking the Harvey Wells little transmitter here. And what I've decided to do is, and I know the schematic's a mess, but I'm powering this thing with two different voltages. I'm giving it a higher B plus for the 807 final to get a little more power out of it. And I want to power the rest of the radio on the lower voltage power supply, which is about 350 volts. So I want to power the oscillators, there's one down there, and all this modulator stuff out of one power supply. And I want to power this 807 out of a different power supply. Contained in the same power supply is usually in the modern power supplies, modern meaning 70, 80 for the tube rigs on the transceivers, on the HP23 power supply, and perhaps the Tempo Power 1 power supply, and most power supplies for the tube rigs in the 70s had two power supplies within. One was high voltage, like say 800 volts or so, for a final tube, Beta 6146, or sweep tubes on Swans. The lower voltage was to power these ancillary tubes, in this case 6AQ5s, and this thing has some 6L6 modulators for an AM modulation scheme. So anyway, this thing will give you a headache, but Harvey Wells made this thing very adaptable by this terminal strip where you'll put on various resistors and such to match what you want to do with it. So at any rate, I desire to run AM with two different voltages, as I described, one for the low voltage components and one for the 807 final here. So how I solved that was, I figured out, okay, what do these do really? These are the secondaries for the modulation transformer. So when this is modulated by the microphone, you'll get, modulation audio here, and this is a push-pull arrangement. And then here on the secondaries, you'll find some modulation. And so traditional plate modulation is we have the plate of the final tube, and it comes down and runs through, traditionally, one of these coils. Okay, so the way Harvey Wells made this, and when you plate modulate, you're varying the current into the plate of the final, and that varies the amplitude of the current and the voltage will go high and low. That's why it's called plate modulation, and that's why it's called amplitude modulation, because you're making the voltage go higher or lower. So that's why it's called AM, or amplitude modulation. You're changing the amplitude of the carrier signal with modulation. So anyway, now that you know the theory, the theory of AM, and me screwing up my computer here again because I bumped a button on the keyboard, and if you bump a button on the keyboard, things go to hell in a handbasket. So let's get that back to where it was. Okay, so anyway, the way I'm going to solve this is, I figured out, first of all, there are two secondaries here for modulation. I can put plate current through both of these. They basically had one going out here to these terminals to use to modulate some other transmitter. So that was nice of them. Then they had these internal coils here that they were using. So the way they did this was, they have power coming in through this terminal, the fourth one up. I'm hoping this is right. And that goes to the switch. In CW, it will put these together. So right now they're shorted together in CW, and so you'll get more plate current through there for CW, which makes sense. When you go to phone, it will run it through, let's see, it runs it through here. It runs it through the plate modulator. So I'm trying to think of why that made sense to me and why it doesn't now. So what I'm trying to do is run voltage from pin 4 where it came in. I'm injecting, I've clipped this lead off on the transmitter, and I'm injecting 600 volts here, 500, 400 volts here. So I'm injecting it really right into the transformer here. I've clipped this lead, and I'm going to put the voltage in through here. And then I'm going to come up through here. And then it would end up coming down here to this pin. Yep. And then that has taken me through the transformer winding. And then I have a jumper from here to here, which puts me through this other transformer winding, which is here. And then I come out here and I jump to the final. And then once I jump to the final, it will go through here. So what I end up is with two in-phase connections. So these two secondaries end up in series. And I should get a heavier modulation by doing it that way, because I'm using more surface area or more windings on the secondaries. They're in series. So that should work. And I'll retrace my steps again. So I've clipped this wire on pin 4, it's clipped. So I'm gonna put, yeah, I clipped that because this pin was powering everything. And this powers low voltage and high voltage, the regular B plus, and the final. It's how it's set up for 1 voltage. So I clipped this wire right there, just pretty much snip that one there. I'm going to put in 600 volts in here, 4 or 5, 600 volts in here. It's going to come around and it's going to come out down here. And I'm throwing that down to this winding here, which is this one, basically. And don't pay attention to that, it's all wrong. And then I'm going to jump it from here to here, and then that will go off to, no, I jump it from here to here, yes. And then that goes up to the final 807 tube and works out fine. So in the physical world then, on the Harvey Wells, to put the example in motion, I wrote on here with the pins, I have the transformer windings here for the secondaries written in. And I've isolated that transformer wire. It's a black wire. So let's see, where is it? Ah, it's over here. Yeah, here's the little transformer wire. So the secondary wire is this black wire. So I'm going to connect this black wire here to this wire, which was used for the one side of the transmit standby switch. And so I'm sending up 500, 600, 700 volts through the cable now. And I'm using pin what? For the 600 volts coming out of the power supply, which is a non-standard configuration. I'm either using pin 3 or pin 6. I'm using one of these. And I'm sending up the voltage. And it comes out on this wire. So basically, I'm using this wire as a transport of that high voltage. And then I simply want to jump it to this secondary on the modulation transformer. So I'll wire bridging it here. And as I said, it'll come in through here, the high voltage, hits the transformer, comes down through the winding on, well, it was in pin 4, but now it comes in that winding, and that winding ends up right here on pin 3. And then I have, let's see, I have pin 3 now jumped down to this pin here, which is the other part of the modulation transformer in series, and that will process, and then it comes out here, and I jump it to the final power. So right here we have the final grabbing power on the 3rd pin here. So pin 1, 2, 3, yep, that goes to the final, to the 807 tube. Let me get the chart here better for you. There we go. So So yeah, there's the 807 right there, and you can see on pin 3, the 807 grabs some power this way. So that powers 807's plate. So I'll go through the whole thing again. I've chopped this wire here, and I'm putting in 600 volts or 5 or 400 volts, whatever I decide to put in, through that winding, and then that winding appears here on this pin. And so I jump, I don't have this in here anymore. I jump from here down to here, and that puts me through this winding. And then this winding comes out, and I have a jumper here now, and that comes up now to the 807 tube. And so in the physical world, again, I'm bringing HV in through this wire. This black wire goes to the transformer. And I guess I'll show you what it looks like over here. I just chopped that off a terminal, well, fourth terminal up. So if you count up 1, 2, 3, 4, you count into here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That wire was there. I just chopped it off. And I'll put 400, 500, 600 volts into this wire. And of course, that goes through the modulation secondary, and it comes out here on the third one up. And then that has a jumper now. So I'll put a jumper in there. That black jumper will jump it down to here, which is the other secondary. So I have these two secondaries in series, and then the output of that secondary, so now we have two secondaries in series, that output jumps to the final voltage. The voltage goes to the final. So the little jumper lead is here. And here's our modulation transformer. Here's our first coil, and it ends up here on this pin here. We take this pin, we jump it down to here. We go to the second coil, and we come out here. We jump to the final, and then that will power the final, the 807. So that should give me, I wouldn't say twice the modulation, but if anything is running inefficiently, that's going to give me more modulation. So I'm just waiting for some wire, some heavy-duty wire from Amazon, which is really made for high voltage. I'm waiting for that to come in to my doorstep, and I want to put some of that wire into here to tie these together, probably a red wire. And I got to hook up the relay and the power supply, and then I'll test this thing and see if it works. And I'll probably want to reduce the voltage in the power supply down to 400 volts or so. As right now I'm hitting it with 600 volts, which is kind of nasty. But I'll try that first, see how it works, and I won't keep it doing that because I don't want to burn out the modulation transformer from 1945. You couldn't find one of those again. I did put an SO239 in here. So yeah, I'm just waiting for the stuff from Amazon. Here's the power supply over here, which I worked on last night. And from the last night's video, we found the relay does click, and it works. So now I got to wire in the voltage wires. So from the B plus, I got to put the wires into here from the 600 volt side, and the, I don't know, 250, 300, 380 volt side goes in here, and then these two contactors will go out the back here of the ASS end of this thing and go up through the cable into the Harvey Wells. So just waiting on some wire now, and when that comes, we'll try it out. I went to a cardiologist today to see about my arrhythmia in my heart and how my heart is in AFib mode all the time. Believe me, you don't want this. And he was a nice doc. I liked the guy. He would have a 4 to 6 hour procedure to, it's like 90 minutes, and then I recover. So it's an outpatient thing. I wouldn't even be in the hospital. So go in, get put under, come back, go home. He said it won't last forever, but it may put my heart into rhythm. So your heart beats at a certain rhythm, and if you have electrical problems in your heart, then that rhythm doesn't maintain because the heart's actually getting feedback, which makes it beat irregular. And that's actually almost like a transmitter having parasitic oscillations. It's something you don't want. All right, enough of that. I've put this radio down cheaper to sell it. I put that one down cheaper to sell it on eBay. No one's taking, actually sent out offers and stuff at a cheaper price. No one's bid yet. The reason why I'm selling this off is because I'm most likely moving out of Las Vegas very soon. And it's easier to get rid of things, I guess, take them to UPS and sell them than it is to pack them up for the movers. Plus, the movers could lose the radio anyway, and so maybe it's good to sell it off. I don't know. But I put lots of work into this thing. This Paragon was a nightmare. I call it the Paragon from hell because I had to take this whole panel off, replace every single push button in here. I shouldn't sell the damn thing. And I had to fix the phase lock loop. This thing took me months to figure out, but it works pretty good. I have memories in here now, so I can just do memory tuning. And you can listen to what is going on. I tend to put all the frequencies that have something to check for basically propagation. And kind of fun. CHU coming into Las Vegas, that's pretty cool, from Montreal area. Anyway, there's CHU on 20 meters from Montreal. 15, I think it's Hawaii. FTA, what's this? WWV, it's dead. FTA, FTA, all these are dead now. A little bit on 10 meters still. Anyway. Local sideband.
Your house went up $100,000 in a year, which a lot of houses did. And I'll do some research on that when you get some time about
local sideband people. At any rate, that's that radio, and this one has been repaired fairly well. It's not perfect by any means. This one is sort of frustrating to use. It's old-fashioned. From 65. Plug it in the wall here. I don't use a switch because I don't want to wear it out, so I just plug it in like that. And this thing has a synthesizer which will lock on a certain band, so you gotta dial the band, and the synthesizer will lock on a segment. It's crazy how this thing works. It works, but it's a hassle to use it. So you simply dial in your frequency and then you do pre-select on it and listen away. I love the tuning on this thing. It's this wheel is like wild. This is why I bought it, was I wanted to experience the HRO mechanical tuning wheel, and it just glides. And then of course this knob will turn too. Alrighty, that's my synopsis. I bought this thing from a guy on eBay, it's parts only, and this, I didn't pay a fortune for this thing, but the little wheel here is for the frequency, it jams. So he didn't disclose that, and I put a return in. He says I can't return it, but I can't fix this wheel. There's no way to fix that. I went in there and looked at the gear, the teeth are all screwed up, so somebody abused it. But this thing otherwise works. I can put it in the scope and it runs, so I don't know. If I gotta keep it, it won't kill me. But the main way you use this thing is, I mean, you gotta dial a frequency up to where you wanna look for, anomalies. So, but man, this thing is, they just built this like crazy in the 70s, Tektronix. I mean, amazing technology. That will work in this scope. This old scope still goes. I didn't pay much for this thing, but this is a headache to move anywhere, even to Dallas from Las Vegas. It's a big bunch of trouble, but it does come on. It's good to run these once in a while to get the capacitors all fired up. Eventually it comes on, I think, here. Maybe not. Yep, there it goes. Look at that. It's so cool, these work. So this 7603 will run modules that run in the 7900 series, which is pretty cool. Where's the focus, man? It looks like crap. Graticals. There's the graticals on it. It's got to focus here somewhere. Well, if I take that down, it looks better, doesn't it? Yeah, pretty neat. It's really a cool scope. Let's take the intensity of it down. There we go. It's really great. I have another scope that I use for, you know, fixing radios. This one I never really use it yet, but I really bought this frame. Well, I got this frame really just on a lark, and then I picked up this to put in the frame. And this goes in, but it takes 2 slots, and this thing is damaged in the back, so I have to take the side cover off the scope and push this in very carefully. It takes a long time. And of course you can damage the scope, damage this thing if you don't get in right. It's as they say, it's a CF. Okay, so that's about it. I gotta get this stuff packed up for moving or sell it or something. And I still have this Swan over here, which I'm working on. This thing, I put new finals into it, but it's not turned out so well. And I ordered a 12BY7 driver tube. I think the driver tube could be shot because it just whacks out. It has a lot of crap, so maybe the driver tube's bad. I don't know. I'm desperate, so. New driver tube coming in, hopefully in time for my move, and that stuff there. There's the power supply now I use with the Swan HP23. There's the power supply for the Harvey Wells. This is the massive old parts and tools I've collected in 3 years, 3 or 4 years, that I'm going to throw this little cabinet out and put all this crap in a box, and that's it. All right. Thanks for running along. Yeah, I got all these boxes here waiting for buyers to buy radios, and I put them in there and they go out in the boxes. So that's the story here. I got this big long shower thing for closing windows and the vents. Sometimes you want to either open or close these vents and you can't reach them, so that big pole is good for that. All right. Yeah, this house is pretty nice. It has really nice shutters that the owner put in a long time ago. Of course, my antenna goes out the window here, and it will be removed fairly soon. All right. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.